Unity Mars is unique as an AR authoring tool because it enables you to take into account variables your application will encounter in real-world situations, while providing you with a visual workflow that lets you move through the prototyping phase quickly and get started. Now let's learn how to define content in Mars efficiently with no coding. So here we are in an empty scene. Let's go ahead and configure this scene and start by creating our first proxy. The first thing you'll notice is a small warning at the bottom of the simulation view. To fix this, we can right-click in our scene hierarchy, go to Mars, Mars Session. This automatically makes the camera object a child of the Mars session. From here, we can go in the Mars panel menu and have visualizations for both the planes as well as the point clouds. From there, we'll go ahead and click this proxy object under primitives. Here, we're going to be using the simulation view, which provides us data about the real world in this simulated environment. Since I've added the proxy object from the create menu, I can add a condition for a semantic tag. Here, I'm going to set it as the pre-built semantic tag for floor. And once I've done that, you'll notice that the gizmo is now visible within the simulation view. From here, I'm going to go ahead and add some content. And once I drag that underneath the proxy object, you'll see it appear within the simulation. Now up here in the scene view, I can slightly modify this to be not exactly right in the center of the room. Now let's go ahead and create an additional proxy component to sit on top of these two dresser drawers. For this one, I am going to use the plane size condition, and so I've gone ahead and clicked that here, but you'll notice that the first match for this proxy object is actually the front face of this dresser. Let's go ahead and add an additional condition for alignment so that it sits on the surfaces of the two dressers. Now that we have this proxy set up, we can compare it within the simulation view to see all the different matches for this specific condition. Now you'll notice that there's a match here on the bed, and I don't actually want that, as I'm going to use an additional proxy object for that. So let's go ahead and stop comparing, and here I'm going to adjust the plane size condition using the visual editor here within the scene view. Here I want to adjust the maximum to be a little bit longer, more like our table surfaces there. So let's do something kind of like this. We can adjust the minimum to be a little smaller as well. Now if I go back and compare within the simulation view, you'll see that it matches just those two surfaces that I wanted. Let's go ahead and add some content. And here within the scene view, I can slightly adjust this content, and you'll see it update in the visualization on the scene view. All right, let's create one additional proxy, and I'm going to do this instead of creating empty proxies by dragging this here onto the bed itself. Now I do want this content to be above the floor, so I'm going to go ahead and check that checkbox and confirm the proxy. Now let's add some more content to it here. Notice that by default, all of the proxies spawn at the origin, but we can easily offset them here to start authoring and modifying our content in its own little space. There we go. Now the last thing I want to do for this specific proxy object is I don't want to show the content all at once, just as you begin to build up a surface to make sure that it appears within the found planes or found surfaces. So to do this, I can add an additional component and an action here called show object in bounds. That's going to take into account the plane bounds itself and continue to show objects as the plane expands. Now to make this work a little bit better, I'm going to undo the maximum size and set the minimum size a bit smaller. Now let's go ahead and test this out in the device view to see how our content spawns within the simulation. And there we go. We have our content spawning on the floor, on the table, and on the bed.